I think one of the questions about liberation, about enlightenment, is whether there's a steady state of that. And certainly there are the witness of the sages say yes, and the technical nature of the Yoga Sutra and other scriptures say yes. There's a point at which the mental field, not only thinking mind, but the buddhi, the intellect becomes so purified, we would say so sattvic in its nature, that it is similar to that of the light of the self. Which then can shine through it completely. And there's an awakening energetically of Kundalini in which the person then no longer falls back into forgetfulness or falls back into delusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joan Shivarpita Harrigan talks about reaching the Makara point, or Makara, maybe it's pronounced, at which point the energy can't go down again. And there's that verse in the Gita that you just reminded me of, the sage of steady intellect. The intellect is said to be like a candle that does not flicker in a windless place. Yeah. So it reaches a sort of a silence or a steadiness that's not perturbed by external circumstances.
Yeah. So in terms of my experience on the path, that it is, again, it's like the sunrise. There's progress towards that steadiness, towards clarity. And I was having a conversation with Edwin Bryant, who has a commentary on Yoga Sutra. It's a beautiful commentary. And he was talking about how our spiritual journey is really about sattvasizing. He made up that word, sattvasizing our life and the mental field. So becoming more and more illumined, more and more clear. So that's how, I see the journey.
Yeah. In terms of the gunas, they say Tamas has a hiding quality, an obscuring quality, whereas Sattva is kind of, translucent, you would say. It doesn't obscure the self.
Yes.
And that's why the whole deal about ethical behavior and purification and yoga and so on, it's not that you couldn't possibly have a glimpse of the self or even a perpetual one with more tamas and rajas in the system, but it's just less likely.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. That's one of the reasons why I fell in love with yoga, because I didn't have to check my intellect at the door. And these things made sense to me about the mechanics of it, about how it works. And then when you start to test it out in your own experience and you find that, I can see that. I can see how that works. My mental field is becoming brighter. I am able to experience the rising of a samskara. And there's a little bit of a pause space in there now where there wasn't before. There was just the snake bite coming out, right? And now it moves slower, so there's a choice point in there. So there's things that we can observe. But one of the things I found refreshing about yoga, of course, was the teaching that a spiritual practice is not about creating a spiritual condition. Mm-hmm. And I talked about sattvasizing. I like that word. It's about sort of making our life more peaceful, more luminous. But we're not doing that because we want to become spiritual. We're doing that because we want to be able to express more fully that which we already are.